like we read in Nehemiah. And then down in verse 42, you shall dwell in booths 7 days. All that are Israelites born shall dwell in booths, that your generations may know that I made the children of Israel to dwell in booths when I brought them out of the land of Egypt. I am Jehovah your God. And Moses declared unto the children of Israel the feast of Jehovah. So ye shall dwell in booths. And that is what tabernacles means. And it's a feast that was designed by God to remember Israel's coming out of Egypt and their 40-year period from coming out of Egypt until they would enter into the promised land when they crossed the river Jordan. 40 years they dwelled in booths, according to what God is saying, that he made them to dwell in booths. Now it's interesting because when I look up Israel's time sojourning in the wilderness, I haven't found this word translated as booths, Sukkoth. You do read from time to time another word that is translated tents. Remember Dathan or Nathan, or the men who rebelled against Moses, and they were standing in their tent door. That's a different word. So, and a few other places it seems to have the word tents. That's Strong's number 168, where booths or tabernacles is 5521. So very, very different word. And several times we read of Israelites in the wilderness dwelling in tents, but I couldn't find anywhere where they were dwelling in a booth like this word is used. Maybe I missed it, but here God says, "Ye shall dwell in booths 7 days. All that are Israelites born shall dwell in booths, that your generations may know that I made the children of Israel to dwell in booths when I brought them out of the land of Egypt." And it's possible that maybe it was only the rich and the princes of the congregation. They were the ones who were rebelling against Moses. Maybe they had tents, while some of the others did not. I'm not sure about that, but God says that he made them dwell in booths, and maybe it was the poor, which would have been a lot of them. They were slaves, and they just found whatever sticks, whatever pieces of wood they could find in order to build a temporary dwelling. That's possible. But anyway, historically, we can wonder and question, and we don't always get the answers. But spiritually, it becomes much clearer. First of all, God says, "You will dwell in booths, all that are Israelites born," and that seems to be a reference to being born again, because when we're born again, we become spiritual Israel. We're circumcised in heart, we become a Jew. That's the language of the Bible, and then we become spiritual Israel, and all that are born again, all God's elect who become spiritual Israel, will dwell in booths, and this is in remembrance of what God did to Israel coming out of Egypt for 40 years. So it's important to notice or to note that there's a great deliverance of all Israel. There's not a single Jew left behind in Egypt in the year 1447 BC, after they've been in the land of Egypt for 430 years to the self-same day. Then God brought them out, all the nation, the entire nation, without exception, not a single child, not some old person, anyone who was living came out of Egypt. Even some who were dead, or at least one, Joseph, they brought his bones. But all who were living came out of the land of Egypt at that time. So it's a great deliverance of all Israel is the starting point, followed by dwelling in booths for 40 years. Now, I think we can see how that relates to the Jubilee year. Because the Jubilee year, if we turn over to Leviticus 25,